Wow.
Wow, this is some really deep stuff.
I don't know what just happened, but something happened inside of me. Something snapped, something.
I wasn't expecting that
either. Sorry.
It's okay. It's all right. It's beautiful.
Monster is like really small, but it had to become that to stop me.
And then the hurt child became present when you mentioned it.
And I didn't realize this until now.
There were things that I didn't remember until now.
Funny, I haven't seen that before.
It feels like I'm the monster. I'm kind of seeing images of things. Of a world where they can exist. This clarity brings all kinds of answers.
It's clear. She hugged me and then went back to her place, I guess, in my heart. Oh, it wants to come out. It wants to bippity boppity boop Cinderella me. She's melted into my chest. It's ooey gooey.
All week been finishing things, cleaning up more, started eating vegetables again last week. And it kind of just started happening. It's almost like I just finished going through a meditation session.
I feel light. When you hit that first joint, in the morning, and
I actually feel a lot more awake.
All right. So you had mentioned that you're feeling better about working with the manager and the agenda parts.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's some others past them.
Yes. So, let's see. Yeah, I feel like I've gotten better at accessing self, although it can still be a small amount at a time, but I can recognize when I'm trying to just be nice to parts because it'll get me somewhere rather than being nice to them because I feel nice. So
right. Yeah.
Then I try to tap into what I already feel about them that is nice, and that seems to work.
I like that.
Usually I do have something nice to say about them when I really think about it, and it is genuine. So, but yeah. So, I'm basically having a lot of issues with the undeserver part, which is very much connected to my the death of my ex-boyfriend last year, and did I do enough to help him and stuff, and I feel a lot of genuine affection for Undeserver. He gets kind of a bad rap, and people are kind of shocked or dismissive of the issues that I have with him, because it's I'm saying oh my God, I didn't do enough, or there was something else.
And they say you did it, you did what you could, or you couldn't have done more, right?
Yeah, or they'll look at all of the crazy things that I did do, and I did do a lot, but they won't be able to understand why I'm upset about it. And but at the same time, something needs to change, because I'm having symptoms of my chronic gut condition, and I'm pretty sure that this anxiety and self-blame, constant guilt is a big factor in that. And I was really connecting with undeserver, or I thought I was like, but I think I may have accidentally been letting him out on a rampage for a few days because
Okay.
I felt like the manager and everybody was willing to step aside. Well, maybe the problem is the agenda part wasn't stepping aside. I was trying to go in too deep, but I was just like so depressed and feeling horrible for a few days that I was finally just like, okay, well, I can't allow this, protectors, you can come back in because I'm not gonna like have a physical issue over this. But yeah, I definitely need to find a way to work with that because like it's not gonna get better if I don't.
So the rampage was the undeserver being kind of let out too much, possibly driven by agenda, part trying to go too far with it.
Yeah.
Does that sound right? Okay.
Yeah, I think undeserver doesn't really want to let the exile meet self because it doesn't think that it deserves to be forgiven or something like that.
Okay. All right. Well, you've done a lot.
Thank you.
I mean, you have all these points of contact that we're able to investigate. So that's, I hope I can keep up. I'm taking notes here.
Well, I'll try and make sure we don't get lost. But I think I did contact the exile a bit yesterday, like, because there was a feeling of grief that felt less sort of damaging, but it's still like here and there, like I can't completely control it or not that you ever can, but you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's just hard to have regular contact with this part that really needs unburdening.
Okay. So we'll start with undeserver then?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Where do you notice it? What's it like?
In my body, sometimes it's in my chest and my stomach. Sometimes it feels like it's in my back, but I don't know. Maybe that's something else. But I can tell you when it pops up.
Sure.
Is when I am like when I think about anything that like when I think about the idea of myself deserving something, or when I think of being kind to myself, then immediately there's a voice that pops up that says, well, you weren't kind to him always, you weren't kind to other people, and you're trying to give yourself something that you haven't given to other people or that other people didn't get. And it always it counters like any attempt at self-love that I might try. So
yeah. Okay. All right. And right now, as you notice it, how are you feeling towards that part that says that?
A little bit blank. Like I definitely have one that's trying to blank things out at the moment. Like I almost lost my train of thought when I was just describing the part.
Yeah. Well, you've had a lot of contact with it recently. You've had the highs and lows of it going on a rampage and all of that. So
yeah,
it would make sense that there are parts that just don't want to go there or want to distract, take you away.
I mean, I gave them explicit permission to protect, which I don't regret because like I had to do something about that. But yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. You gave the parts permission to protect you from the undeserver?
Yeah, because it was like harming me physically at a certain point.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we can ask all those parts. Let them know that would like to try again to try to help this undeserver and help the exile that drives him?
Yeah. I think maybe if I just don't let him loose all the time, if I had like times when we're hanging out and times when we're not, then that might reassure the parts that are worried about the rampaging.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Because it is a lot. It is a lot to handle.
Yeah, it is. So let's see.
You could also let them know that not only could there be a start time, but there could be an end time. Like that they get to come back in after this conversation, for example.
Yeah. I'll say that. Yeah, they can. It can be over after this conversation, and agenda part doesn't want that, but that's okay. Agenda part doesn't have to get everything it wants.
Yeah, it wants to go all the way, go deep every time, right? Yeah.
But that prevents the entire thing from happening at all. So I hope it understands that.
Yeah.
So
just ask the blanking part and the agenda part. If they'll just let us be curious, see if we can find some new angles, some new ways to negotiate.
Yeah, they're moving back a little bit. So the undeserver.
How are you feeling towards him? I'm using him because last time I thought I remember.
I tend to use him as well. Yeah, that's good. He's like I think I told you this. He's like a 14-year-old boy.
That's what I recall. Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel that he certainly deserves to be helped. And yeah, see, he's countering. He's like, I don't deserve anything. So that's it. That's always the pushback.
Okay. And how do you feel towards him?
Well, a bit concerned, a bit worried about how to reach him, about how to unburden the exile, about if he's right and the exile either shouldn't be or can't be unburdened, like whether or if I do unburden the exile, like will I truly feel like I'm trying to think of a word other than happy, because it's not like I think my life is going to be like perfect after unburdening, but will I feel like at home in my own skin again? Like I need to, and I don't know.
One question that maybe he can answer is, will he feel more relaxed?
If the exile is unburdened? He says it doesn't matter if he feels more relaxed. It's about the truth.
Okay. I appreciate that. Well, I want to value the truth also.
Yeah. Me too. I don't want to dismiss the truth, and I also don't want to be miserable for the rest of my life, which.
And if there is a way to know the truth and be honest and not hide it, and also for him to relax, would he be interested in that?
Yes, but of course he says that that's not possible.
Okay.
Like, he would love if it were, but it's just not.
Okay. Well, this is exciting. I mean, I would also love it if those were possible. I'm also open to that not being possible.
Mm-hmm.
And so it would be good for us to find out.
Yeah, it would. It would. I've had parts that were afraid to find out, but I think they're just so tired at this point that they don't care anymore. They just want to find out.
Yeah. And so this thing that is either true or not, and he's saying is certainly is, has to do with the what you deserve, what exiles deserve, and if it's possible for them to be unburdened or forgiven.
Yeah. Well, sometimes I think that maybe it's not always undeserver who's the most sort of difficult element of this. Sometimes I wonder if it is the manager in some way, because like if I really pay attention to what undeserver is saying, I think sometimes all he's saying is that it's true that I could have done more to help my ex.
Yeah.
And I do think that's technically true.
Yes.
So, but then there's another part of me that has a real problem with that.
Okay.
So I think that's the manager. And it's just
that's
like,
interesting. So
yeah.
So undeserver is saying you could have done more. You're saying technically true. And then there's another part that has a problem with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think it would be good to listen out, try to find out what part has a problem with that.
There's a part that thinks that if I accept that I could have prevented his death, or that it's decently possible that I could have, that I'll never be able to get over the loss. Because it's just like this snap of the fingers between him dying versus him living a long life and being there and being okay. And if there was something I could have done, then that's like horrifying to me, even though at the same time, the idea that there's nothing I could have done is also not that great if you think about it.
Yeah. And I'm trying not to add even more complexity when I think you and I have talked about like free will before too, where it's like, well, could you have done anything different? Which really takes it into a whole different space.
The free will thing is a legitimate question. Like, clearly, if I didn't do more, I couldn't have done more. And the reason that's not as comforting as it should be is because I think of all the other people around us who should have done more and didn't, and how angry I am at them. And I'm like, I don't care if it was inevitable. I don't want to be like those people.
Right.
And I want to do better.
Yeah. Maybe we could all agree that right at this moment, you can't do more.
That's certainly true. That's something
you can't do more for that in the past.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm looking for things we could all agree on with these parts. Yeah.
You know what? It's weird. I can, of course, agree with that. And yet I think maybe there's a part that doesn't want to agree with that.
Yeah, because then it's case closed, final.
Yeah.
Maybe we could hear more from that part.
Yeah, that's the same manager. It's like, yeah. It's just not, it's not something, like, the part just isn't willing to accept all of this because it just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel like something I can come back from. And if it's not something I can come back from, that's very bad.
Yeah. And what does that mean to this part, to come back from it versus to not come back from it?
That's kind of an interesting question. I think it just means being sad and miserable for the rest of my life, because I don't think in a positive way about, I don't think about dying bringing some relief. Like, I don't think about, like, if I think about killing myself, that just depresses me more, because like, then the bad thing will still be true and I'll be dead. Like, that's not better.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
it's just a feeling of being doomed in some nebulous way, like the rest of my life being ruined.
Yeah. Well, I feel like that would be something worth understanding more about from this part. Maybe you already understand that and you don't need that, which is fine. So just let me know, because I'm very curious about that concept of coming back from it, being doomed.
It was just this really central struggle in my life for so many years. Like, not even the relationship itself, but trying to help him survive, being that person that like cared about him, and then kind of leaving that role because, well, from my point of view, he was just constantly like lying and refusing to respect like the most basic conditions of my continued involvement. Like, if you're drinking, like, it's okay to struggle, but you have to bring your bike over to my house and lock it up there so that I know that you're not biking drunk and going to like kill yourself in a matter of days. Like, because alcohol is dangerous, but accidents are one of the main reasons people die. And in the end, he did have a bike crash like 2 weeks before he died, and we kind of think that maybe that had something to do with it. Like, there was maybe a brain bleed, or it just like weakened his whole system or something. So it wasn't an unfounded fear, and yet he just wouldn't respect that. He wouldn't do that. So I just got so tired of being the only person who cared about whether he lived or died.
Yeah.
And I wasn't completely out of contact. We would both reach out from time to time. And there's a lot about the last few months of his life that are especially upsetting to me in terms of like what I did and what I didn't do and what I could have done, because we were kind of back in contact, and I was wanting to be a supportive presence, but I was kind of still put off by some of the things he was doing and saying. And so I didn't really show up in his real way. And I feel like he saw that and saw that it didn't make sense to try. And for whatever reason, I was the only person he was willing to try for. So he stopped trying.
How are you feeling when you recount that just now?
I feel bad, but not bad in a way that I should, I'm not actually feeling the full impact of it when I talk about it, because in order to get through the explanation, I can't do that.
Yeah. I was kind of curious of where you felt like that was coming from, because it did sound to me like you entered a kind of a calm space, just judging by your tone.
Yeah.
It sounded like there was some quiet in what previously sounded like a fight between parts. So I was wondering if that felt like that was if that was a part telling that story, or if that was self kind of telling the story to parts and me.
It was, I mean, I think they're okay with me telling the story because they all want some kind of resolution.
Yeah.
And I'm sort of being fair to both sides in a way when I tell it. But there's definitely like a storytelling part that's, you know, the one that calms down and gets it out on the table so the therapist or whoever can understand what I'm saying without me making a scene of myself, because I have a part that doesn't like me to make a scene.
Right. I get it. Yeah. And so if the therapist knows the story, then the parts are easier for the therapist to understand, or the scene is easier.
Or just I'm embarrassing myself a bit less. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. When you said that, as you tell it, you're being fair to the parts, that sounds to me kind of self-like, at least.
Yeah.
Where
I
yes, there is a way to look at your past and your present from self, and to have a kind of fair view of it.
Yeah. And I think in a way I'm presenting both sides of the argument because the parts are invested in who was right, and they have some sort of childish desire to be given an opinion by someone else also, even though like no opinion would ever actually satisfy them.
Okay. So the undeserver, the manager, how is it now amongst you and these two parts?
The undeserver says, let's just accept the facts. But I don't know if it actually wants to. And the manager says, we can't accept the facts, even though I kind of want to. They're doing that thing that couples do when they fight, where one person might be like 51% this way, other person might be 51% that way, but they completely polarize each other.
Yeah. Okay.
Because undeserver doesn't want to actually find out that things are bad. And the manager doesn't actually want to stay this way.
And do they notice you in that in the conversation? Because it sounds like you're noticing them and their real, what they're saying and what they're feeling.
They think I'm probably kind of incompetent. They don't know that I can provide anything that really makes them feel better. They hope so, but
when you tell their story, does it help make them feel better when you advocate for them, or see how they're feeling and don't dismiss them?
It does something, yeah, but ultimately they just want this resolved. They're so tired.
Okay. Yeah, sounds like you're being very empathic and understanding of them.
Yeah, I do feel understanding of them. I feel like everything they're feeling makes perfect sense to me. But they almost don't want it to make sense. They want to be wrong.
Hmm. And if they're wrong, if they're each wrong, and so that they're still polarized?
I don't know. They just want to find out that. What is it? What is it that they want to find out? They want to find out it's like that there's some objective reason why I don't have to be plagued by this anymore.
Okay. Yeah, you said earlier that they had this childish desire to be given an opinion.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But tons of people have pointed out all the many things that I did to try to help, and it doesn't help because I can still point out things that I should have done.
Right. Because they don't recognize other people as being an authority in your system.
Yeah.
And they have no reason to.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And so they are feeling, you use the word childish, so I use the word childish, but you could say maybe they're feeling leaderless. They don't have a leader.
That's a really good word for that. Yeah. In fact, I think that's what a lot of my parts struggle with. I think I've never been diagnosed with it, but I'm pretty sure I have some form of OCD. Like I have parts that just like do like repetitive motions, like unable to stop doing like various little breathing rituals and chewing weird ways and thinking like these, cycling thoughts. And if I don't rescue an earthworm off the pavement, does it make me a bad person? Like all that stuff. And and that is I feel like Undeserver is either the cause of that or intimately involved with it. It's like, it's like this record skip in my brain that's like, do I really deserve this? Am I really right about this? Like what authority actually is there to hold me steady? And there's none. So it just keeps going around and around and around.
Yes.
And I remember like the year that all developed as a kid too. So
I'm very curious.
Yeah, I was 9, and I really can't explain what triggered it. It was just very suddenly, I felt depressed and full of these weird little compulsions that I hated. And it was weird. Yeah. I have to assume it was some kind of thing relating to my relationship with my parents, my mom's mental illness and stuff like that. But that's just my thinking. I've never actually gotten to the bottom of it. I just remember I suddenly felt very guilty all the time. So that's Undeserver.
Yeah. I think we've also talked about age 9 being when school started getting serious. And
I started being less able to do school right when it started getting serious.
Yeah. So Undeserver is asking, what authority is there to hold me steady?
Yeah. In fact, when I imagine them, my mental image of Undeserver and my mental image of Jerry are suspiciously similar. So I wonder if they're the same part, but I'm not sure.
And remind me, what's Jerry's message?
That's the one that's always questioning, and is this going to work? And that's not going to work. And nothing you do will ever actually be effective because you didn't check all the boxes, like that kind of thing.
Right. Does this all make sense to you? That these parts would feel that way?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm inclined to keep following this idea or this concern that Undeserver has about not having a leader and looking for ways to help with that. But a lot has come up. So if you're feeling like we should go another direction, or there's another part, or another anything,
I would like to work with Undeserver. I think. I wonder if the leader question is the main one. There's just like a feeling that I didn't do enough, that I'm not enough, that I don't deserve good things, or that if something bad happens to me, maybe that's just like how the world works, and I've done similar things to people, so I have no right to be upset about it, and all that stuff. And like the response from Self is kind of like, well, you don't have to, like, you're just literally just a human being, like you can't but I don't know if I'm actually feeling that from Self at the moment, but that's like the response. Is that you don't have to be so rigid about it, like
and has that ever landed for Undeserver? Has that ever helped him relax?
Maybe like a tiny bit, but not much. There's always that sort of churning doubt.
Yeah.
That it might not be correct.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe we can learn from him more about the conditions for what is true and what is not true. Like, does that make sense? Like,
yeah, or maybe what it is like, what do I deserve as a result of like what's happened? Because I tell him, like, like it's literally a fact that you can't treat people this way and expect them to change, and I couldn't treat that way and expect him to change, and I can't treat myself that way and expect myself to change. So like, and he will even kind of accept that as a fact and still be like, but I don't deserve anything, which I think is where there's an exile in there that feels like very much exile energy.
Yeah. Well, when you were saying I'm not enough, to me, that's a pretty hallmark exile phrase.
Yeah. Yeah. And this part is all about the facts and acknowledging the facts. And then I tell it a fact that it will acknowledge, but it won't accept it.
Right. Which would make sense if this was all to protect from an exile.
Yeah.
And I think that, I have these parts, I think we've all been there, especially when in those teenage years where we have some moral truth that we've uncovered.
Yeah.
We're very certain about it. We want to talk about the facts.
Yeah.
And there's always something more going on underneath that.
Yeah.
And that's why I was asking about the conditions, and you might ask him this, is are there conditions? He talked about wanting to find out what's right or prove what's right. And my question is really, is that even possible? Are there conditions? Is there a scenario in which he can be disproven and he stops, or he can be proven right and the rest of the system, falls in line with his truth? Are either of those possible? Like, what would that even take?
It seems at this point like he can't be proven wrong in saying that there was more that I could have done. I think all of my parts, even if they don't want to accept it, they know that it's technically true. I think maybe the debate is over how to interpret that or internalize it.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm happy to go with that. I mean, you say technically true, and sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and I could accept that it's technically true, and then I could be wrong. Maybe there was some fluke that actually prevented it. But the point is that I just feel in my bones that I have regrets, that I would do it differently if I could do it again.
Yeah. So let him know that. Let him know that we're going with free will exists, and you could have done something differently, and that you have regrets, and just let him know that that's okay. That you're. I'm not saying it's okay, like no big deal. I'm saying like, yes,
right.
There's regret, and to acknowledge that.
Weirdly, I still don't believe in free will, so that might be something else to factor in. But it's like, I don't know. I guess in this hypothetical, I just wish I had done things differently.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, like, he doesn't like. He doesn't like that. He doesn't want to be right. But he's like, okay, I guess, like, I'm still fucked.
Yeah.
His whole thing has just been, we're fucked. I know we're fucked. I don't like being the only one to say it, but also, even if everyone accepts it, it's still shit.
Yeah. And so what would happen? And ask him to really consider what it would mean, what would happen if that weren't the case, if he didn't send you that message of being fucked.
I would be getting over something that I'm not meant to get over. Oh, yeah, I get something now. It's like a child that can't accept that, like, a figure in their life is gone. Because that would be just too much to bear.
Right. So there's that unbearable grief that he's worried about, which makes sense. And then there's that, what sounded kind of like you said, like getting over something that shouldn't be getting over.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll throw another one in there that I'm just speculating that if there's a part that says I'm not enough, and you were to, and this undeserver, and you weren't fucked,
right,
then that would conflict. Then maybe you would be enough, or maybe this part would feel that way, and I think that wouldn't add up.
Yeah, it's something like that. It's like, if I'm okay without him, then I'm listening to everybody who told me that I would be fine without him and that I shouldn't care so much, and that all my efforts were kind of like overbearing, stuff like that.
Oh, well, I want to offer another possibility that you could be fine and you could care really deeply and grieve really deeply.
Yeah. That seems like a good possibility.
Because I get it. These other people are saying you're fine, and it felt dismissive.
Yeah.
And the message that you and your system are probably getting were, don't grieve. You don't need to. You can stop grieving now because you're fine.
It's almost worse than that, because this was when he was alive, and other people wouldn't accept the urgency that I felt, and accept that, like, that A, we needed to do something about it, and B, that like I had an important role in doing something about it, which, as I've learned, I did, like, because I was the only person he trusted for whatever reason.
Yeah. And so they're telling you, don't worry about it. He's fine. You're fine. Stop grieving. Stop the drama.
Yep. Give him his bike back. Take some time away from him.
Yeah.
Which I did. Like, I feel like a lot of that stuff, as much as I didn't want it to get to me, some of it did get to me. You have to put yourself first. But, like, I didn't actually want to put myself first. And that was my decision to make, or it should have been.
Yeah. Sometimes you put yourself first, and other times you put him first.
Yeah.
And it was really difficult. It was months of difficult decisions around that. I'm guessing it probably affected you every day. And you had a lot of people giving you input.
Yeah, a lot of the time, yeah.
So can he see that possibility that maybe you could be fine and you could also care really deeply, have sorrow, have grief around this?
Maybe. The thing is, there's a concern about accepting reality, which is really funny because he's been the one that's been pushing me to accept reality. These parts are so two-sided. It's so interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's this, like, if I'm okay and I move on, then I'm living in this bleak adult world where magic isn't real, where love can't always save the day. But you know what? Just now, when I think about that, I don't even know if I agree, because I do think love could have saved the day. And the only problem was that I didn't see it at the time, or didn't have I wasn't given the tools or the support to make that happen.
Yeah,
but it is still
you.
True. Yeah.
Love can save the day. And I think that you're working internally and working with these parts can demonstrate that to them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's part of why it's hard, because when I work with them and I show them mercy and kindness and I see them change as a result, I start thinking every time about how I could have done the same thing with my ex.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. And it's just the worst thing that I can't do that anymore.
Well, you can't do it for him.
Right.
But you can still save the day with love.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And at the same
just a
time,
new
he
day.
was at the same time he was such a big part of my life, and someone I never wanted to abandon or let down.
Yeah.
Like,
Go ahead.
I don't feel the same way about helping other people. I enjoy it and I want to do it, but it doesn't feel like this necessity, this calling in exactly the same way that it felt like for him.
Yeah. Earlier, this part had mentioned how bad it would be to be overwhelmed with grief, that would be too much.
Yeah.
It sounds to me like what you're saying now is grief. I mean, it sounds like this is part of grieving to me.
Yeah. I don't know why exactly my parts are so stuck on him in particular. It's kind of interesting.
Because he was such an important figure, right?
Yeah, for sure. But I've also had friendships where things have been really rocky and the person has been in a bad place with their health. And it's never been quite like this one, although some of those people actually did survive. So maybe that's it. I don't know.
If I can get back to this being grieving, can you check that out with the undeserver and show him that this, and check it out with him, like this is grieving, and it doesn't sound to me like you're overwhelmed
right now.
And would he be okay with you continuing to process the grief from this place? Does he feel like that would be safe and not overwhelming?
He's kind of like, fine, try it, do it, whatever. Like, kind of a defeated reaction. It's like he doesn't want to let go of it, but he understands that it's harming the whole system so much that he might just have to.
And what is he worried about letting go of again?
The importance of my ex, like the specialness.
No, we want to go towards that, is what I'm suggesting.
He has a hard time understanding that.
Yeah, to me, grieving is recognizing how valuable something is and was, and allowing that, rather than all the parts that are, and all the other people that were saying this is no big deal, to admit that this really, really was a big deal, and that it's going to have the accompanying feelings of grief that can feel overwhelming. But if you are in this place of self, you're not letting go.
Right.
You're accepting the grief. You're accepting the reality, right? Which is what he wants.
Yeah.
Which is that it was heartbreaking, and it hurts, and it still hurts. It's tragic.
Yeah, it feels like he's trying to understand a math problem that's well above his grade level. Thinking about that.
Yeah, and it is hard. I mean, grief is a tough thing to put on paper.
Yeah.
But when you see it, and I'm saying that I'm seeing it in you in this conversation.
I think so too, yeah.
Yeah. So again, I guess the question is, does he see that? Does this part see that?
I think so.
And allow for that being the process. And it's not a letting go.
Mm.
It's not deciding you don't care anymore.
Yeah.
It's accepting how much you do care.
Yeah. He's almost surprised at how little he's being required to change.
Yeah.
He's almost disappointed at how little he's being required to change.
Yeah, well, he can decide how much he wants to change, where he would rather be, what he wants out of that process.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be a negotiation with you, of course. If he wants more leadership, that could be a negotiation between you, but yeah, there's not any mandate.
I don't know. I'm just getting a sense of mostly confusion. And it's hard to articulate even what the confusion is about. Like, I wish I could offer more insight than that.
It's all right. Yeah. Overall, does it feel like a good thing? Does it mean
It feels like something is happening,
on the right
and it
path?
doesn't feel like something bad is happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think he was just refusing to accept the loss in the end.
Yeah, because he thought that meant that you don't care.
Yeah, or what did he think it meant?
That you'd be overwhelmed with grief, doomed.
I don't know.
Okay. You can keep learning that from him.
Yeah. Heart's logic is so strange.
Yeah. It is. Parts logic is very strange. Grief logic is very strange.
Yeah.
Although I do want to point out that typically in unburdening exiles, that is also involves a grieving process.
Yeah.
And so getting a taste for that, even if it's only with this protector right now, and just showing him how you can handle that and how you can go towards that.
I also wonder.
Might do a lot for how you're able to unburden exiles.
Yeah, and I think that would be connected to all the exiles, because going towards one and having that, well, do you really deserve blah, 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 like that kind of halts the whole process. Yeah, it's interesting trying to see where Undeserver ends and his exile begins, because I wonder if we're not already talking to the exile when I'm talking about like the child that doesn't want to accept the laws.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, keep wondering.
I will.
Keep listening.
Yes.
And we promised that this would be a time-bound exercise, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that you can keep it up and make space for that.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions?
I don't think so.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Hope I hear from you soon.
Thank you. I appreciate your help as always.
Okay. Thank you. Have a good day.
Bye. You too.
Bye.
Do you want to help bring more self-energy to the world? If you'd like to participate in calls or help out with this project in any way, I'd love to hear your ideas. Join the Discord server or contact me at james@liveifs.com. A huge thanks to our audio engineer, Yvonne, for your care and diligence in editing the calls. To every caller for your courage in sharing some of your parts. And to anyone out there getting to know their internal system, keep going. Who knows, that might be the most selfless, helpful thing you can do for others, and you're the only one who can do it. If you'd like to see us reach the largest audience, we must please the almighty suggestion algorithms at iTunes and YouTube, and they don't care about the power of IFS. They're looking for likes and shares and comments, and the sooner the better. Follow the links in the show notes right here in your podcast player to make your wishes known. And now, a minute of meditation. Or if you prefer, pull over. You can do it in 60 seconds. Just click one of those links. They're right there, and give us a like or a 5-star rating. It would really help. If you think this project is helping people, you're helping people by sharing it. Thank you.